Well, this wasn't the episode I wanted to do today. I wasn't expecting to do today, but the Chargers have some serious problems right now. They got whooped 27-10 against the Commanders yesterday at SoFi. After the first quarter, the Chargers had nothing going on offense. Their defense could not slow down Jaden Daniels and the pass game or the run game. They gave up 163 yards rushing yesterday. The offensive line is going to get Justin Herbert put on the IR soon. And we just found out today that Omarion Hampton is now going on the IR with a ankle injury. So it's just getting worse by the hour now for the Chargers. I don't know how this team gets it together in a week and competes next week in Miami, but we're going to go through mostly all the bad that happened yesterday against the Commanders and talk about what do the Chargers do from here. And to say at least, there's not much they can do. Maybe you make a trade for a running back. You're not going to fix the offensive line. No amount of practice is going to fix that offensive line right now. Hopefully, all can come back. I don't think he comes back against Miami. Maybe he comes back against the Colts. It's just falling apart very quickly. The Chargers got exposed last week by the Giants, and the Commanders took the same exact playbook. We're going to go through all the bad in this episode, and hopefully this is a venting session and a therapy session for Chargers fans. So before I get into anything, be sure to like, subscribe to the show at Electric Edge Podcast on YouTube. You can also listen on Spotify. Follow me on social media. I'm at Electric Edge Pod on TikTok, X, and Instagram. We got a lot to cover in this episode, so let's get into it. All right, Chargers look like they were firing on all cylinders quarter one against Commanders. Then Quentin Johnson has a terrible fumble, and the wheels came off extremely quick. The Chargers didn't score after the first quarter yesterday. The Commanders put up 27 unanswered points against the Chargers defense. Chargers defense had little to no pass rush. I think Jaden Daniels was sacked once yesterday compared to Herbert getting sacked 4 times. It seemed like Jaden Daniels just had full command to throw. Their running game just annihilated the Chargers defense. Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt had 111 yards rushing. He was averaging almost 8 yards a carry yesterday and had 2 touchdowns. The defense we saw week 1, week 2, even week 3 does not look like the same defense we've seen the past 2 weeks. Yes, there were some injuries on defensive line yesterday. I think Naquan Jones didn't play. But you have Naquan Jones, Khalil Mack still out. They're not getting pressure on the quarterback. It just looked abysmal. And we'll talk about the offense here in a minute. But defensively, this is the worst defensive outing I've seen in quite some time that the Chargers had yesterday. Let's just pull up the team stats from yesterday. They did have a turnover, which is good because they haven't had a turnover since the Raiders game. Jaden Daniels yesterday, 15 of 26, 231 and a touchdown. I mean, there was one play where he threw to Luke McCaffrey. I think the Chargers dropped 8 back, and I'll pull up the film of that here in a little bit. And Chargers couldn't stop him. It was one-on-one coverage down the field, and McCaffrey catches a big catch, and that also swings momentum. The laundry list goes on of things that went wrong yesterday for the Chargers. Like I said, Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt just ran all over the Chargers yesterday. 14 carries, 111 yards, almost 8 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. I mean, Deebo Samuel was their most targeted receiver. They were down Terry McLaurin, but it didn't seem to make a difference yesterday for the Commanders. The Commanders, from that fumble of Quentin Johnson, did everything right, and the Chargers just completely fell apart. I was at the game yesterday, and I was sitting with my husband, and he said to me, he said, the Chargers will not win this game now with that Quentin Johnson fumble. And sure enough, he was on the money. Completely changed the momentum of the game. The Commanders went down the field right after that and scored. And like I said, the Chargers just could not get anything going after that. Let's recap team stats. So the Chargers this week had the advantage of time possession. So last week, there was 11-minute difference in the Giants game. This week, they had a 9-minute advantage and still couldn't put up any points. They ran 10 more plays than the Commanders. They're averaging 5.2 yards a play. They had 10 penalties. The penalties are killing us. The undisciplined play is part of the reason why we've lost the past two weeks. 10 penalties for 85 yards. There was 2 tremendously bad penalties on offense in the third quarter. Herbert gets a first down, gets called back. He throws it again, hits Keenan Allen, gets called back. And we'll go through that film as well. Just uncharacteristic amount of penalties. And that comes with practice, but you need to be disciplined. And I talk about being disciplined all the time on my shows. I don't know where this has come from, because this wasn't apparent the first 3 weeks of the season. And all of a sudden, something has changed where this team is committing uncharacteristic amount of penalties. Once again, we lost a turnover battle. Herbert had a tip ball once again, got picked off at the goal line. That touchdown could have maybe swung momentum, but after that, it was pretty much over. And then, like I said, the QJ fumble, which shifted all the momentum in the second quarter. They completed 75% of their passes yesterday. But then they didn't have over 200 yards passing between Herbert, and then they brought in Trey Lance towards the end of the game. But look at this stat right here. Sack percentage. 13.2% of the time the quarterback is sacked compared to 3.7. That's not going to win you any games. We were out rushed yesterday. 163 yards, 155 yards. We were better on third down. We were worse on fourth down. And we were about the same in red zone efficiency as well. But I don't know what you do fixing the defense. You know, in the offseason, we let Joey Bosa go, which I get. There's money issues involved, but we went bargain basement shopping for defensive linemen, for corners. We took a defensive tackle in the third round of the draft. Great. But Khalil Mack going down was really your only source of pressure. I mean, Tooley had a great game last week, but in this week he finished bottom 5 in PFF grades. So also to add, probably our top 3 to 4 defensive players finished last in PFF grades yesterday. So check this out. So this is PFF grades for the Chargers yesterday. Look at the bottom 5. Tuli Tuipulotu, Diane Henley, Derwin, Jamari Caldwell, and Caleb Murphy. You have 3 of your big names, plus a rookie that's been pretty productive, finishing in bottom 5 in grades. That's not going to win you games. Those high-caliber players have to produce week after week. But there's just not much to say about how bad the defense was yesterday. It just felt like Jaden Daniels just did whatever he wanted to do, and he did. The same thing with that run game. Krosky Merritt just ran all over the place. Atrocious. They won't beat Miami playing like that. You know, the Dolphins are 1-4, but there's no way the amount of penalties, the undisciplined play on defense, the atrocious play on offense, and when I say atrocious play, I'm talking primarily on the offensive line. Miami has a good pass rush too. There's just no way the current state of this team is going to go fly across the country once again and go beat the Dolphins in Miami. I don't see it. All right, let's flip to the offense. So top 5 PFF grades. Herbert leads, Keenan Allen, Omarion Hampton, Zion Johnson, Kamani Vidal. I don't know who's going to be RB1. I'm assuming it's going to be Haskins. But losing Omarion Hampton to an ankle injury is probably the worst news that the Chargers could have gotten today. We're already depleted, and this is just another stab wound, it feels like. And if we look at the bottom of this list, look who we have here. Our 2 tackles finishing in the bottom of PFF grades. I don't know how Herbert stays healthy the entire year after watching another week of him getting body slammed and taking pressures and being bent sideways because this offensive line can't block for him. And I'll go back to what I've said many of times. This inept offensive line falls on Joe Ortiz and Mike Devlin. I'm going to blame Ortiz because there is just no depth whatsoever on this offensive line. Take a team like the Cowboys yesterday. They had 3 offensive linemen down against the Jets. Now, the Jets suck, but they have good defensive players. They have some good individuals on that line. They annihilated the Jets yesterday. They were in full command most of the game. I think at one point it was 30-3. Let's take the Buccaneers, for example. They have issues on the offensive line. That next man up mentality, they're 4-1. Injuries are 100% a part of playing in the NFL, but you need to be able to have the depth to withstand those injuries. And the Chargers right now have zero depth. Our depth got traded a week before the season started from a team that has a probably in the same category as bad of an offensive line as we do. You don't fix this with practice. I'm sorry, this does not get fixed in practice. This should have been addressed in the offseason. And I am not the only one saying this. Chargers Twitter, once again, Bradley Bozeman should not have been the answer this offseason. You ran back with the same interior offensive lineman. Granted, Zion's played pretty well, but you ran back with the same players that got you blown up in the playoffs. And what's the excuse we've heard? Well, this was said to Daniel Popper. Hey, Pop, 11-6 sounds pretty good to me. Oh, yeah, it does. But do you think that the Eagles and the Chiefs have that mentality? 11-6 sounds pretty good to them. The Eagles just seem to retool every year. The Chiefs find a way to retool every year. Your position is let's just roll back with a team that went 11-6. That is infuriating as a fan. I'm not the only one who spends their hard-earned money going to Charger games, spending money there to watch a product that is not up to the standard this organization should have, especially with the amount of cap room this team had in the offseason. They had over $90 million in cap and refused to spend it on anyone of value to fix the offensive line issues. And on top of that, they didn't draft an offensive lineman till the third day of the draft. Yes, you cannot account for Joe Alt going down. You can't account for Rashawn Slater going down. But it is ridiculous that you roll with players that got you in the same spot it did last year, a first-round exit in the playoffs, and getting Herbert hit every single which way. Let me digress now. Let's go through the tape to see really how bad it was. Because I went through this before, and I was infuriated. I know there's no other options, but it's just so bad to watch Herbert trying to make things happen and literally has no time to make it happen. He's trying to step up in the pocket, can't move, no one can hold. We have offensive linemen picking up the wrong defensive lineman or just not picking up any defensive lineman at all. So let's go through that. Okay, so this play right here, this was in the first quarter, 4:06 on the clock, 2nd and 5. Now, there's a video that came out on the broadcast of this game where Herbert's pointing to pick up the linebacker, and then Bradley Bozeman points to the wrong guy, and Herbert yells no. And Harbaugh, on his press conference, probably about half an hour ago, talked about that it was a missed assignment on Bradley Bozeman. So let's watch this. Right? You just saw the point there. So Bradley Bozeman points to the wrong player. Right? And this play gets blown up. So they rush 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bradley Bozeman picks up the wrong defender, and right up the middle, Herbert just gets it out of his hands, and it's an incomplete pass. All right, let's go through this sack. Let's pull up the end zone view. Okay. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 defenders. Deckless gets beat right here. Nothing for Herbert to do. So he has no time to get anything to develop down the field because in this situation, Deckless can't block. All right, let's pull up this sack. Okay, so we have Hampton and Conklin and Fisk. Motion. Boom. Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4-man rush, right? This defender just comes free. You have Hampton running out. Zion's not blocking anyone. Nothing for Herbert to do. Okay. So let's talk about this sequence, right? So that was first down. That was the start of the third quarter. Okay. So this is where we had 2 tremendous penalties that stopped any momentum that we had, right? So now it's 2nd and 19. So let's go to the next play. So this is going to be holding on Pipkins. So they bring 4. There's the hold. Herbert has time now. Throws a dart down to Quentin Johnson. Gets called back. Okay, let's roll to the next play. Same deal. So let's pull up the end zone. Okay, so the rushing 4. That's probably a hold right there that wasn't called. Herbert just gets it off. Hits Keenan Allen. That'd be a first down. That gets called back because Pippin's false started. And that killed that drive right there. All right, let's pull up this sack. Okay. Okay, same thing. Got a 4-man rush. Deckless is going to get beat off the corner once again. And that play right there, Herbert getting bent back, I just thought that's a knee injury. And his knee was down before he threw the ball, so it was a sack. And let's talk about this play right here. So 20-10, 4th and 2, the Chargers were driving. Conklin was standing on the sideline. You had Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey all yelling, come on, come on, come on. And I think this is the play that Hampton gets hurt. Right? So Hampton gets tripped, right? He gets tripped right there. You had coverage here. It was going to Conklin. And it goes right through his hands. Couldn't get anything going. So let's pull up real quick. I want to pull up this Jaden Daniels play to Luke McCaffrey down the field. So let's find it. All right, so the Chargers, I think, rush 4 on this. All right, if they rush 4, they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right, and it's one-on-one coverage down the field. And he just gets beat. Dante Jackson gets beat. I mean, this sums up the Chargers defense yesterday. Just big plays, explosive plays, and the Chargers couldn't stop anything. Let's pull up some of these bad runs that the Chargers gave up yesterday. All right, this was a 15-yard touchdown run. All right, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there were 6 people that were rushing, and he just goes around the corner and scores. Just too easy. Like I said, I don't know how this. I don't know how the offensive line gets fixed by next week. I don't know what Jesse Minter has to do to get this defensive unit clicking again. Definitely starts with the pass rush. There just wasn't enough of it, especially going into the game where you know that the Commanders are ranked 2nd in the NFL in rushing yards, like average rushing yards a game. Like, you knew that was the game plan going in, and somehow they still ran all over you. You could blame injuries, but every team has injuries. It's not an excuse. How do you overcome it? How do you find a way to win football games when you have some pretty bad injuries on your squad? Just to add some context, this is what the Chargers are dealing with right now as far as injuries. You have Rashawn Slater, Khalil Mack, Eric Rogers, Junior Colson, Omarion Hampton, Dean Leonard, Josh Harris, Denzel Perryman, Najee Harris, Mekhi Becton, Trey Pipkins, Joe Alt, Will Dissly, Darius Davis, and Deshaun Hand. Some of those players aren't on the IR, but they've been on the injury report or got injured in Sunday's game. Here's another stat. Justin Herbert is on pace to be hit more than Andrew Luck through 6 seasons. You have an all-world quarterback, and you cannot find a way to protect him. This is year after year. This is the same story year after year with the Chargers. Justin Herbert was sacked 41 times last year. Now, pretty much the same offensive line, interior, right? Alt's going to come back. You had Slater. He's on pace right now to get sacked 58 times this year. That is close to Joe Burrow numbers right now. And like I said, I don't know how it gets better. I want to be optimistic. I want to say the Chargers are going to figure it out, but I have zero confidence right now. What can you do? I don't know if there's anything you can do. I mean, yesterday we had Deckless gave up 3 sacks and 5 pressures. Zion Johnson only gave up 1 pressure. Like I said, Zion Johnson, I can't criticize him too much. He's been a bright spot with all these injuries. Bradley Bozeman gave up 2 pressures. Mekhi Becton says it gave up 0 pressures, but he also was in and out of the game yesterday. Trey Pipkins, 1 sack and 1 pressure. Jeremy Salyer, 1 sack and 2 pressures. Jeremy, I think, came in right tackle when Pipkins went down. I don't think he went in a right guard yesterday. And Foster Sorrell definitely came in at right guard, and he gave up 2 pressures. Like, it's just a revolving door of offensive linemen right now. And it's not working. Here's another stat about this offensive line. So Andrew Luck was hit 580 times in his 6 seasons. Herbert is on pace to get hit 625 times. That's insane. It's insane. And Daniel Popper put this out. Since entering the NFL in 2020, Justin Herbert has been hit more times, 525, than any QB in the league. Only one other quarterback, Russell Wilson, has been hit more than 490 times in that span. Incredible. Year after year, it's the same song and dance with this team. They cannot protect their star quarterback. And when you have no offensive line, you can't run the ball. I think Hampton yesterday, because the Chargers came out and they were running the ball, right? Hampton had 12 carries for 44 yards, so he was almost averaging 4 yards a carry. Justin Herbert led the team in rushing, which I've talked about. That can't be the case. He had 4 carries for 60 yards. He broke off a huge run in the first drive of the game. Was long of 41 yards. When Kamani Vidal came in, he had 4 carries for 18 yards. He was averaging about 4.5 yards a carry. And then Hassan Haskins is 5 carries for 13 yards. I mean, I'm at a loss for words. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. It's just bad all around. The play calling's bad. I mean, if you go back to that drive where Herbert gets picked off in the end zone, they tried to run it and they couldn't. Right? They got stuffed. How about using your 6'6" quarterback, who's done pretty well with quarterback sneaks this year? How about you just push him into the end zone? Because you did it to convert a 4th down yesterday, or a 3rd down. I think it was 4th and 1 or 3rd and 1. But you didn't do it. You decided to run with Vidal, and then you decided to throw and get picked off. Now, granted, the ball was tipped. Doesn't matter. You were at the 1 yard line, and you didn't use, which was your best running back on the field, your quarterback, to run the ball in. And at that point, the score would have been 2017. Then it's a 3-point game, and it makes things a lot different. But no, I will never understand why Jim Harbaugh continues to roll with Greg Roman, but it will be part of his downfall if that doesn't change. I'm convinced of that. I never wanted Greg Roman as the offensive coordinator. Jim Harbaugh loves him. But that is another big piece of the issues on this offense. All I can hope for is that Jim Harbaugh wants to make some changes, especially with the offensive line. I've been on the case. There needs to be a change at center. Do they start Andre James next week? Probably not. But when your center's ranked last in the NFL, I mean, maybe you should try something different. But he was pressed today in his press conference with reporters about Bradley Bozeman, and it seemed like he was getting a bit uncomfortable answering those questions. So we'll see what happens there. But out of Brad Bozeman, which you can change your center, there's not much else they can do with the offensive line. We'll have to keep an eye out this week if they decide to sign a running back to the practice squad. I don't know. But it looks like Hassan Haskins will be the lead back going into Miami, which I don't like one bit. This is just a recipe for disaster next week in Miami. But I've been stewing on this game since I left yesterday. I left SoFi yesterday. It was a miserable trip back home. Going into it, I felt hopeful. I thought, maybe they'll fix some of the issues they had against the Giants, get the ball out quicker. And like I said, after that fumble by Quentin Johnson, just felt like all the wheels fell off. And I don't know. I mean, you're on a 2-game losing streak now. And there's really nothing to look forward to going into Miami. Like, I don't have any hope that this is going to get fixed going into next week. And from what I've been reading on Twitter, I don't think anyone else is convinced. It's amazing as a Chargers fan. Things can start out so great. We're firing all cylinders. We win 3 straight division games, and then we bleep the bed against 2 NFC teams, one that didn't even have a win. Incredible. Incredible. So with that being said, let's hope there's some positive news that comes out this week about the Chargers, how they're going to fix these glaring issues they have right now actually in all 3 phases of the ball. Special teams, offense, defense. I mean, let's talk about special teams real quick. Ladd McConkey returns a punt for a touchdown and gets called back because of roughing a kicker penalty. Undisciplined football. Why are you roughing a kicker in the end zone is beyond me. You're going to have great field position anyway. I'm hoping Darius Davis can come back too next week. That would be a huge help in the special teams game. But the Chargers have a big mountain to climb to get ready for Miami on Sunday. So let's see how they respond. Regardless, I will live and suffer with this team until I die. But it just feels like the same song and dance every year, no matter who gets brought in, who's coaching the team, who's at quarterback. It just gets frustrating. You look at some of these other organizations and what they do and the things they do right, and it's like, well, why can't the Chargers do that? And I don't know why. And I tweeted about this today too, about this Ravens way thing. Ortiz brought over the culture of how the Ravens function in their front office. Right? They love to draft. They love building through the draft. They don't like trading picks. They're smart with their salary cap, but what if the Ravens won? The Ravens have been competitive and good, but the last time they won a Super Bowl was 2013. That's going on 13 years ago. These teams that, like the Chiefs, like the Eagles, they retool, they find ways to still stay on top of their division or on top of their conference. And the Chargers, this offseason, they had the chance to really build upon that 11-6 record, and they went bargain hunting. And it's coming back to bite him in the butt. That was a lot. That felt like a therapy session. So I hope it's a therapy session for everyone tuning into the show, because that felt good to finally vent and get it out verbally of all the emotion I've been holding on to the past, 24, 48 hours at this point. But with that being said, be sure to subscribe to Electric Edge Podcast on YouTube. Follow me on X, TikTok, and Instagram at Electric Edge Pod. And Chargers fans, let me know your thoughts in the comments. What could possibly be done to fix this team right now? Your thoughts on the loss against Commanders, and then also your thoughts heading into Miami next week. And I will put out an episode later on this week about the matchup going down to South Florida. Make sure you're following me on all social media for more Chargers updates, news, my analysis, my takes. And I appreciate every single one of you who tunes into the show. Every video really means a lot. So Chargers fans, this too shall pass. We will weather the storm, as always. But with that being said, go Chargers and bolt up.